Hello, everyone. Today we are going to continue our trend with feminist authors. Today we're going to check out Charlotte Perkins Gilman. Gilman had a very interesting family life and an interesting childhood. At an early age, her and her mother were abandoned by her father. She was actually raised by her mother as well as her father's sisters. One of these aunts was Harriet Beecher Stowe. You'll recognize that name because she's the author of the famous novel Uncle Tom's Cabin. Now, in 1884, when Gilman was 24, she was all but forced into a marriage with Charles Stetson. 1 year later, they had a daughter named Catherine. Here is a copy of the cover of Uncle Tom's Cabin that was written by Gilman's aunt. Now, after her pregnancy with Catherine, Gilman suffered from postpartum depression. Essentially, this is depression that sets in after a woman gives birth. It can set in immediately. It can set in 3 months later. It's simply depression after birth. The trend at the time was for a woman who was suffering from postpartum depression to be treated by the rest cure. It was developed by Silas Weir Mitchell. This rest cure was essentially it lasted several months, and the woman would stay isolated for hours and hours on end. For Gilman, the most she could do was have no more than 2 hours of stimulating intellectual talk or thought or conversation per day. She wasn't allowed to write. In fact, the doctor decided that she should never pick up a pencil or a pen. And Gilman, this certainly didn't work out for Gilman. She used her experience with the rest cure to write the short story that we are going to read in class called The Yellow Wallpaper. It is about a woman who gives birth to a child and then suffers from postpartum depression and is treated with the rest cure. You'll notice there are many connections between the narrator that we'll hear from and Gilman's own life. Apart from just writing, Gilman was a social activist. She was huge in the world of women's rights at the time. Two of the biggest things that Gilman fought for were a woman's right to a divorce, and her biggest one was the importance of a woman to have her own bank account and to have her own finances. Gilman's life and her love life was not all bad. For 34 years, she was married to her cousin, George Gilman. This was a happy marriage. 1 year after his death, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And being this advocate for equality and women's rights and patients' rights, she was an advocate for euthanasia or assisted suicide. And she committed suicide by overdosing on chloroform very soon after she was diagnosed. Now, when we read Gilman and we really focus on The Yellow Wallpaper, there are 4 huge things that I would like you to focus on. First, we're going to focus on the roles that are described for women and the roles that are described for men in a marriage, and what a woman's job is and what a man's job is. We're also going to talk about the importance of self-expression. Just like Gilman, the character in The Yellow Wallpaper hides the fact that she's writing in a journal. She's not allowed to express herself or have intellectual thought because of the rest cure, but she does anyway, because to Gilman, this is incredibly important. This is part of that female identity that we talked about in The Story of an Hour with Kate Chopin. Like I mentioned, we're going to talk about the rest cure. Clearly, Gilman is not an advocate for the rest cure. And my favorite part of the yellow wallpaper, and it's a part that's often goes overlooked. It's the setting that Gilman creates. And you'll remember from class, the setting is not just the place, but it's the time as well. Setting is time and place. Gilman's setting is real. It is semi-autobiographical because it is her life, and she takes parts of her life and puts it into the story. So as you read the yellow wallpaper, pay attention to the description of the setting and the clues that you get to the setting. That's all I have for you for now. Enjoy your weekend, and I will see you on Monday.